Hello and welcome to another video, and in this time is the third part of the theoretical guide of the limited Nabe, also known as Nabe the Raven Black Phantom of Allure, this one right here on the screen. Part 1 I said everything about the basic of the character, the basic skill tree, the accessories, the startup upgrades, as well as the relic set recommendations, the relic sub attributes, as well as the relic enhancements, and my recommendations for the awakening levels, as well as that I talk about her exclusive arc light and what to equip on her if you don't have her exclusive arc light but still want to use the character and max her out. So that was the first part in case you missed it. In that one, you learn basically everything about this character, and I explain you the strategies, how to maximize her damage on her own, and so. The second part was about team and compositions that I recommend you to play either with her as a nice extra on the team or entirely around her so she becomes your MVP. And in that one, I explained you the synergies between this character and all the teams that I told you, and how those synergies either maximize her damage on one aspect or the other, or how maximize everything about her, or how to, make her incredibly powerful. Those include a buffers team, a hybrid team, a counter team, a Pleiades team, and a critical damage team. The last one, I didn't fully explain it because I ran out of storage on my phone to keep recording with. To keep it short, the critical damage team includes, characters with high critical chance, like for example Metal Veil right here, or the SSR Entoma, and also includes characters like this Albedo or Pandora's Actor that are able to buff their allies to either do more damage or more critical damage, or to give special buffs to them like invulnerabilities. That also might include characters like this Momon right here, the Halloween Momon, or for example Seshi and Nigredo that we have on the screen right now. That basically is pairing one or two of those critical damage characters with a tank that increases the physical damage or the performance of the physical damage based characters. Either could be like this Hamuska right here, or Valkyrie Shelter, for example, to lower the enemy defense. So your critical damage characters do a ton of damage, and then you keep either a healer or something like that. You could go double ranger, one healer, one tank, or one range. Sorry, not one ranger. She's warrior. You can go either uh, one ranger, one warrior, double tank, or one ranger, one warrior, one healer, and one tank. Whatever you prefer. Yeah. Now that I explained that, this third part is the for fun part. Let's say in this one, I am gonna have to explain, or I'm gonna explain one last theme and its variations, why I came up with that, and a little bit of extra, facts here and there to play better or to enjoy a little bit more the character in question. Now, the team that I was talking about is something that I call the Immortals team. It is not exactly a known team on the community or anything like that, because everyone plays the meta and so. But what includes the Immortal team? Well, the Immortal team has characters that either revive one or multiple times, or characters that avoid dying for some buff or another reason, or characters that are incredibly hard to kill, that the enemy will probably die to that tank before the enemy is close to killing that tank. To give you an example of the most basic ones, might be the Death Knight right here. This is one potential member of the Immortal team. Is just a very basic tank that inflicts bleed on the enemy, and his passive is this one. The passive is that when he dies, upon death, he will resurrect with a max HP of certain percentage, depending on the level of the skill and the stars of the character, and has a cooldown. So if after resurrecting this character doesn't get killed in 10 rounds, he can resurrect again. So if you can keep him alive for 10 rounds, he will have like a a cycle of constant resurrections. Yeah, 10 rounds is a ton, honestly, just to keep alive one tank, right? Especially a character that doesn't give you something that is gonna carry the game, but that is just to give you an example. It's really tanky, this character, it heals itself and revives. Other characters that might be able to go in there are, well, it's this one, it's the Valkyrie Shelter. Valkyrie Shelter can heal herself with her basic attack, with her ultimate and so, but her passive allows her to revive. When she receives fatal damage, she triggers time reversal with 5 rounds of cooldown, half the cooldown that the Death Knight had, and she's way better tank. And what is time reversal? Well, restores her HP to the state at the end of their last action. That means that her HP will go back to the last time she got a turn to play. And when she gets the time reversal, additionally restores 40% of her max HP. So, for example, let's say that I play with her and she gets killed, and when she gets killed, the True Vampire Blessing activates, that is the passive skill, and will use time reversal. And the last time that I played with Shelter, the last time I had a turn with her on the match before she got killed, she had 20% health. Well, that means that when time reversal activates, she's gonna get back to that 20% health. She revives with just that percentage, plus the 40% here. So she will have a total of 60%. And she's a tank, so that 60% is still a ton of health. And if she doesn't get killed in 5 rounds, her time reversal comes back again. So she might be able to, just like the Death Knight, constantly revive over and over again. If you can, shield her or heal her or whatever, but just try to keep her alive. Annoying notifications. Other characters that are able to kind of like revive, for example, is this solution right here. And this is not a tank, this is a really powerful mage. And that is because of the passive skill that she might be able to enter this team. That is the Bouncing Guard. The Bouncing Guard says that when an ally target takes lethal damage, clears all the effects, basically purifies the ally, restores the totality of their HP, and grounds the Bouncing Guard state for 2 rounds. Can be only once every 5 rounds, just like Shelter. And if the enemy dies, Bouncing Guard prematurely ends and revives with the current health. What is the Bouncing Guard? That doesn't really explain here. It is a mechanic effect that immobilizes the target, and if it's not eliminated by the end of the duration, revives with HP. Basically, it's like you freeze one ally. When the ally is about to die, it becomes a slime, and the effect is like if the ally were to be frozen. The ally cannot move, the ally cannot attack, cannot do anything, and it lasts for 2 rounds. So the enemy has those 2 rounds to kill the ally again, from 100% HP to 0. But if the enemy doesn't kill the ally in those 2 rounds, the ally revives with the HP that it had at the moment. Like if the enemy was only able to take away 50% of their health in 2 rounds, the ally will revive with the 50% left HP. But if one enemy dies while your ally is in the Bouncing Guard, your ally will immediately revive on the spot with the HP that it had at the moment. So, for example, let's say that I have this solution and Entoma takes fatal damage. Entoma will basically go into this Bouncing Guard state, and if immediately after that solution takes a turn and kills the enemy, Entoma revives. And that can be every 5 rounds. So this solution can not only revive herself in that way or keep herself alive and then revive, but she can do it over and over again every 5 rounds if she remains alive. So you have a mage that is part of the Immortal's team, you have double tank right there. Of course, Nabe is part of the Immortal's team, that's why I'm talking about that here, because if we go to her skill tree, you can see here on her passive on the last part, that says that at the end of any unit's round, if Nabe is dead, she revives, resets her ultimate cooldown, and grants her an extra turn, as well as resurrecting with 60% of the current health of the enemy with the Nabe special passive, the Thunder Mark, and can be capped to 240% of Nabe physical defense, and can only activate once per round. So she's more limited because she can only revive once. unlike the other three characters that I said. But she gains more benefits. She revives and immediately gets an extra turn in the spot, so she immediately gets a turn to play, and she has her ultimate ready to throw or ready to be used, and she's a warrior with S on attack and S on health, so she's really hard to kill and she hits really, really hard. So you have tanks, you have warrior, you have a mage that can revive or, avoid death in one way or another. Another one is this one right here is Cocytus, the tank version specifically. He's able to heal himself with his captain skill. He's able to also do it with the passive skill. He is able to shield himself and others with the ultimate to counter, to increase his own attack or the one of his allies. But the important part here, aside that he has S on HP and double A on physical and magical defense, that makes him very tanky, he also is able to inflict the Indomitable on himself upon dying. And it's right here. Upon taking fatal hits, he survives with 1 HP and gains Indomitable for 1 round, with 5 rounds cooldown, just like Shelter. And is a buff that allows the target to survive a little hit with 1 HP. So, as long as Cocytus has this buff, he will revive, well, not revive, but he will survive with 1 HP no matter what. Unless the enemy attacks him with one of the two next things, either Anniversary Albedo Ultimate, that is an execution that bypasses Indomitable, or he gets this spell from the state, like a Seshi or a victim or something with really nice dispelling capabilities, dispels the Indomitable buff from him, then he can die. And not only that, but if he is 6 stars, when he is alive in the battlefield, if one ally takes fatal hits, the ally will survive with 1 HP and also will have Indomitable for 1 round, and that can be every 24 rounds. That is really long time, but it says rounds and it should say actions, because when you're on the battlefield and you see this takes place, every time some ally or someone or some enemy in fact makes a move, this gets reduced by 1. So this is not rounds, it's actions, and is way less than 24 rounds. Like really is really different. It's way faster than 24 rounds. It will be depending on the amount of enemies start on the game, right? But 24 actions is not even 12 rounds. So yeah, he can also keep one ally from dying and himself. So if you add or you make a team of these characters that are revive or avoid death in one way or another with this Nabe, you will have a really annoying team, but also a really nice one. Like, what could be that team, for example? Could be this Shelter. She heals, she redirects damage, she lowers the enemy defense, and so you can also put this Cocytus, so he gives everyone shields, the capability of countering the enemies, increases the allies' damage, and all of that. That's 2. Then you add, for example, this solution on the team to have an area of effect mage that hits really hard and gives 40% extra attack to the ally that plays just after her. And then you play Nabe that can revive as well and does a ton of damage and is really tanky as well. Well, no matter who the enemy focuses, they're not gonna be able to kill it as easily. Not only because they're tanky and like the damage is gonna be redirected to the shields of Cocytus, and then it's gonna be redirected to Shelter that absorbs damage and all of that. And not only the team can heal themselves, but also if someone were to die, either they revive on their own, or they get Indomitable on their own, or they get an Indomitable from Cocytus to survive, or they get the Bouncing Guard from Solution to survive, or Nabe just revives. And that team, can keep themselves alive for a lot of time, or keep exclusively Nabe alive for a long period of time if the enemy were to focus on killing her. And not only that, but because the team is so tanky, they can survive all the way to the late game, where the game starts to reduce in the healings, reduces the defense, and increases the attack. If increases the attack on the late game for characters like Solution and Nabe that have S on attack, they are gonna be, and that can revive as well, they're gonna be able to one-shot the enemy before the enemy even has a chance to know what's going on. But that is not everything about the team. In that Immortals team, you could kind of like squeeze Victim in there because part he is not part of the Immortals team, part of him he is. Part no, because he dies so damn easy. So it's not really something that you're gonna be able to protect all the time. But the other part that makes him fit into this is that he can revive. When he dies, he basically explodes in the divine martyrdom. And that is, something that stuns the enemies, dispels their enemy buffs, is able to extend the duration of stuns, and destroys their enemy relics. And not only that, but also gives turn meter and high tier damage boost to the allies. And if you have his arc light, he can revive one more time. So what does this mean? He revives even when the enemy tries to execute Victim with something like Seshi Ultimate that is able to dispel something like Indomitable, buffs like that, to try to bypass, let's say, Kokyoto's passive and kill Victim once for all. When he dies, he revives, grants a 100% fixed chance to resurrect with 1 HP. So he can explode, gets killed, explodes again, revives, and then he can die again. So he can die twice, and he's able to revive. And because he's able to revive, by the time his last life is on the line, other characters like Okyotos are going to be able to keep him alive even longer. And then you have another one that is this Albedo. There is one right here. Not only because she can heal and shield everyone and give the entire team critical resistance and so, but because of her passive. Her passive saves the allies. When an ally takes little damage, she's gonna purify all the debuffs from the ally and restore their HP equal to 25% of Albedo max health, and grants them debuff immunity, high tier effect resistance boost, and invincibility for 2 rounds, and she can activate it 2 times per fight. So she can save either 2 different allies, or the same ally twice, or one ally and herself, or herself twice. And then her arc light does that when she uses the passive skill and makes someone survive and be immune, she also increases their turn meter and their recover health. So she makes them survive and also accelerates their next turn and heals them even more. So you can add this Albedo to really or truly make one team that is not gonna be able to die. And then you have another one that has a very unique way of avoiding death, and it's this moment. When he takes fatal damage, he becomes immune to the damage and gains no retreat for 1 round. And this cooldown gets reduced by 2 rounds every time someone dies on the battlefield. And the no retreat has 6 rounds cooldown, so you only need to, or he only needs 3 deaths to immediately get the cooldown resetted after using it. The no retreat state increases his attack by 50% and damage dealt by 50%. When he gains the no retreat state, purifies all the debuffs and gives him debuff immunity. Also gives himself the Soul Walker state, his special passive, and resets the cooldown of his ultimate. So just like Nabe, he gains the ultimate to use it right as soon as he gets into the fatal damage range. And the no retreat, aside of that, also gives this effect here. The moment speed gets decreased by 50%, but he becomes immune to all the damage. On all the incoming damage becomes into HP, so he heals from the damage of the enemies. And that lasts all the time before he gets a turn. That expires after his next turn. So you have another character that literally avoids death. And if you want to truly be annoying to the enemy, you use this shelter right here. You use the Kokyoto's tank, this version right here. Then you go and add either this Momon and this Nabe, as to have double damage dealer, or one of them and then Albedo. If we want to go like full annoyance mode, it will be that Albedo, Shelter, Kokyotos, and Momon. But because this is a Nabe video, I'm gonna put Nabe instead of Momon. What is gonna happen is that no matter what the enemy does, if they try to kill Shaltiar, Shaltiar will revive, and they have 5 rounds to kill her again. If they try to kill Cocytus, he only shields himself and all of that. He gets Indomitable, and the enemies cannot kill him that turn unless they can have a dispelling effect on him. And even if they have it, Albedo's gonna make him invulnerable. If they try to focus this Nabe not only can revive, but that can be she cannot be killed because Cocytus will give her Indomitable. And even if they dispel the Indomitable with another attack to try and kill her and bypass her revive, Albedo can make her invulnerable and save her. And Nabe will gain more turn meter boost and will play. And if they try to kill Albedo, not only Albedo is incredibly tanky and hard to kill, she can also heal herself, shield herself, make herself indomitable again, not because of Cocytus' ultimate, but because of her ultimate herself. And if that doesn't work, Cocytus still has his own indomitable, and if that still doesn't work, she has the passive skill. So they will survive no matter what. And with that, you have an Immortals team, and the Immortals team basically is really tanky to the point that no one dies, no matter what the enemy does, and no matter what the enemy does. So you have either one character that revives, another that gets Indomitable, another that gives Indomitable, and another that gives double invulnerability to your entire team. So regardless of what the enemy tries, they will have to waste not only the entire skill set to try to kill one single character out of 4, but they will have to do it like at least 3 times to get close to killing some character on your team. And you still have a lot of utility because this character heals and this character can execute enemies. This other one here is able to reduce the enemy defense so they're more vulnerable to damage. This character is going to be able to one-shot enemies and lower their physical defense by 50% every time she attacks. And then you have this tank that is able to not only shield everyone, but make everyone on his team be able to do counter attacks with extra damage. And he can increase the damage of the allies with the highest attack on the team. So you have a team that literally doesn't die, survives all the way to the late game, and in the late game they gain more attack. But if you don't like that option with these ones and you want other 2 options that are able to, annoy more the enemy, you still have this mage for the bouncing guard that I told you that can be up every 5 rounds. And then there's the last classification for the Immortal team that I said. And it's the character that doesn't revive or doesn't avoid death, but is just so tanky that the enemy literally dies before the tank is close to death. One of those tanks is the Yeldabaoth, the Spreader of Evil, and mostly because of the 5-star and 4-star upgrade combined with the ultimate skill. The ultimate skill does area of effect damage, inflicts bleed and all of that, but also recovers HP based on the number of bleed stacks that the enemies have, and not only that, but when he does that, if you combine it with a champion set on him, he's gonna be able to heal even more after using the ultimate. So at the end of the day, he heals when he uses the ultimate and after using the ultimate, and then he has a ton of magical defense, physical defense, health, and not only that, but because this character is a tank and is from the bleed team, he's gonna be able to counter the enemies and inflict bleed on them. So not only he resists damage like a champion, but he is also slowly lowering the enemy health unless they purify themselves. And the other tank that enters this classification is the Raven Black Guardian Albedo, or also the tank version, the one with the armor on. Has A on magical defense, S on physical defense, and S on health points or HP. So it's incredibly resistant to all kinds of damage. It could be physical, magical, or true damage. Is able to constantly counter the enemies to provide shields to all the team and to herself multiple times. Is able to control the enemies through things like the taunt attack from the ultimate skill. And not only that, but if you combine the incredibly high resistance and high health with a champion set that increases the health even more and also gives healing after every reaction, it means that you basically have a tank that resists all kinds of damage and heals every time it attacks. and cannot be reduced until either you get to the late game where the game literally reduces every type of healing and every type of increased resistance, or the enemy has a special anti-healing character. But the anti-heal debuff only lasts for 2 rounds, so you can only nerf this character for 2 rounds. So you have multiple options for the Immortals team. You have Albedo, you have the Limited Nabe, you have the Anniversary Albedo, you have the Halloween Momon, or the Valkyrie Shaltiar, or Big Team, or the Counter Team member Cocutus, or Yaldabaoth, or you also have the Mage Solution, or you have the Death Knight from the SR early game. So you have all of those to make an Immortal team. And the strategy is very simple. You literally just survive, play defensive until you gauge the enemy composition and you see what is the most vulnerable enemy and what is your priority target. When you see that and get the strategy done, the only thing you have to do is slowly damage the enemy that is your main priority to kill and survive into the late game. And even if you don't try to survive by actively using shields, the characters are so tanky and can revive to the point that on their own they're gonna make it to the late game, to the action number 50 or 60, where the game increases everyone's attack and reduces the healing and defense. So even if the enemies try to one-shot you, and even if they do it, because your characters can revive, it will be like nothing has happened, and then you can counter-attack or you can literally retaliate on your next turn and kill them because the enemies will more likely not be able to revive. And by that, you won. You got to the late game, you survive, and you kill the enemy. And it's kind of fun because you can see the enemies frustrating, especially if you go to the multiplayer in real time against other players. So you can see literally how they get desperate to try and squeeze the win without having any possibility of doing that. And that will be like the Immortal team composition and their strategy against different types of enemies. And that will conclude basically the part about the last character or the last fun part here. Other things that I have just to say are basically little tips, like for example, if you plan to use this Nabe on one of the Immortal teams, or you're trying to try to use that character combined with this one in particular, with this healer, keep in mind that the indomitability or the indomitable and the invulnerability that the healer does and the revive of this character, some have priority over others. So what does it mean? Like for example, if this character were to take fatal damage from any source, and you have also this character on the same team, what is gonna play first? The Indomitable from the ultimate, if you use it, or the passive with the invulnerability, or the passive of Nabe with the resurrection? And what, to the point, or at least to the experience that I have with these characters, the first thing that gets into the place is the passive skill from the healer that gives debuff immunity, high tier effect resistance boost, and invincibility to the ally. This takes the priority, unless you have the ultimate activated. If you have the ultimate, Indomitable plays before anything else. If Indomitable gets this spell or is not placed on the character, then it's gonna be the invincibility. And after the invincibility, what plays is the resurrection of the character. So the healer skills play before the warrior skills here. And if you try to combine that with, for example, the revive or the time reversal of the Valkyrie Shelter, it's also the same. The character first gets the Indomitable, and if the Indomitable is not an option, gets the invulnerability. And if it gets the invulnerability, then after that gets the time reversal effect. But this has only one exception that I have seen, and is if the character takes a ton of damage. If this character takes like 50% of her max HP or more in one action, then the time reversal plays before the revival, sorry, before the invulnerability. But if she gets into fatal range by something that is like 40% of her health or less, the invulnerability will play before the time reversal. So there's layers of priority. And if you want to, maximize the survival of one character, you can try to, for example, use just as an example, no, as an extra, this character and gets into the no retreat state, and there's like what, 6 rounds cooldown, right? 6 rounds. You can make this character use the no retreat state, then the obliteration of all to kill one enemy, and when this runs out, the enemy will try to kill him. You can combine this with the anniversary albedo, so when the enemies try to kill him, they cannot, because he will be invulnerable for 2 rounds. That is 1/3 of the cooldown for the passive. Then when that runs out for 2 rounds, and the enemies try to kill it again, you are gonna be able to, for example, put Albedo ultimate, so he gains Indomitable. So he's immune for another entire round, that is 3 rounds. And if that runs out, and you have something like Tank Cocytus on the team, that might be the 4th round, because after that, when they try to kill it again, he will get the Indomitable from Cocytus. And that is 4 rounds that this character is unable to die. And even if after those 4 rounds the enemy tries to kill him again, you have this second vulnerability from Albedo. That is another 2 rounds that he becomes immune. So that makes the 6th round. So after the 6th round, when the enemy tries to kill him again, he is gonna have the no retreat state all over again. So you see how you can do this almost infinitely? It's not infinitely, because Albedo will run out of invulnerabilities, and there's gonna be a point where Cocytus Indomitable is gonna be on cooldown. But by the time that the enemy wasted 7 rounds trying to kill this character and are not able to do it, all the enemies are without cooldowns, and you can kill them with this character. Or with Nabe as an example as well. The only thing is that you have to time when you throw the Indomitable and when you let the invulnerabilities take place. But once you have mastered that, you basically have a team that will not die no matter what, and you're gonna frustrate all the enemies. And that's the like for fun part, at least for me. And with that, I conclude the theoretical guide about this version of Nabe. And after this theoretical version, like in 1 or 2 days, maybe something like that, I'm gonna be posting the practical guide. That is where I go to the arena mode and fight different teams and compositions from real enemy players, and show you how the team performs against different teams. Like, I already have some matches recorded with some of the teams that I told you that I'm gonna use for the next part. And not only that, but I'm also gonna go to something like the Realm of Shadows to show you how the team performs on high level plays against NPCs on the late game stages of the game. So with that, you're gonna be able to see how worth or how good or bad maybe this character is in different teams and different situations and different game modes, to see if you get combines or not to max out the character, or to not even touch the character. But if it were up to me, I will upgrade this character a lot, like I have it right here. And I'm gonna be using both the Arclight that I have here, that is Battle for the Headwife, and her exclusive Arclight. Depending on the composition that I use, I'm gonna use one Arclight or another. Like for uh, the maximum damage team, I'm gonna be using her own Arclight. But for the counter team, I'm gonna be using Battle for the Headwife. For the critical damage team, I'm gonna use her own Arclight. But for the buffers team, I'm gonna be using Battle for the Headwife. So okay, depending on the team, I'm gonna be using one Arclight or another. And when I get to the practical part, I'm gonna specifically say what Arclight I'm gonna use on what team. But it's pretty easy to see and suppose what I'm gonna use for each team. And with that, I finish off this, and thanks for watching or being here and hearing my awful voice. And yeah, until the next part.